Hi, everybody. This is Gina Cavalier. This is the Liberated Healer podcast. And today we have Robert Althuis on. He's the author of Love+Truth. And he's a spiritual coach, keynote speaker, and the founder of Sacred Wealth Collective. And welcome, Robert. It's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you, Gina. I appreciate it. It's a pleasure to be here. Actually, where are you based?
Right now I'm in Oxnard. I had to go to the ocean. I'm enjoying it here so much. I am so happy. I love the water and yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I'm
What
in
about
Miami,
you?
so we got a little bit of
Oh,
water here too.
yay. Your book, I haven't, I've only got sort of like the highlights, but it's a big effort. And I'm writing a book as well. You got over 600 pages in there. And, it looks like very in-depth information. And then what I liked about it is that you're saying that everything that's in there, we already know this intuitively inside of all of us. It's, more for guidance and stuff. And so I just wanted to get a little bit about, and also you said in 2015, you had a big shift that made you kind of go towards this direction. So if you can unpack a little bit about who you are and what that shift was.
Okay. So I'm all the way back. I'm originally from Holland, actually born in Amsterdam, and I grew up there. I was 21 when I left. I came to the States when I was in my early 20s. And I came here to pursue the American dream, and I did that with a vengeance. I got into real estate. I started making money. I went to night school, actually, because I had dropped out of school in Holland and completed my night school degree. And then I went to Columbia Business School. I joined GE Capital. And so I was climbing the ladder, the social ladder, the corporate ladder, all the ladders, all the things that the world tells you to do. And, I had a lot of success in that, what the world calls success. And so, I was top 1% in GE at one point in my early 30s. And then the financial crisis hit, and I had this opportunity to actually, my unit wound down because the regulators came in, and then I bought out an asset. So now I was an entrepreneur, the next big step. And I had my own boutique firm. I built airport infrastructure around the world. And in 2015, I had a big exit. And what we mean by that is, I had a big payday. We sold a bunch of my projects and all my pension fund partners and everybody. I made a lot of money and I got a big payout. And so here I was in my early 40s, and I had kind of reached this proverbial mountain peak, and I had always envisioned that when I get there, then I'll be complete, and then I'll be happy, and then everything will be perfect. And I got there, and that was not really the way I felt. I actually felt really empty. I felt like this massive void. And the train stopped running too, because I had been on this bullet train to success and working, traveling 250 days around a year and just go for 20 plus years. You get rewarded for that in that world. And so the music stopped, and then it was silent. And then I was like, what do I do now? And I had everything. I had the perfect wife, perfect house, perfect kids, perfect cars, money. I had all of it. But I had sold my soul to get there. And that's really what I discovered. I swam with the sharks, and I had become a shark on many different levels, violated my own integrity, got involved in very high levels of business. There's a very good book, actually. It's called The Diaries of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins. I roamed in that world, and I was a cog in the machinery. I by no means was the highest soldier on the rank there, but I was full in it. And I've seen what goes on in those stratospheres of society and business and politics. And so it really, I sold my soul, and it corrupted my soul. And now I had to face all this. And now what? Right. And that was, in hindsight, I had a really big spontaneous awakening. I had clairsentience come online and claircognizance come online. And at the time, I had no idea what any of this stuff was. I was really like, what the heck is happening to me? But I couldn't go back to that world. I tried, actually, because I figured, if I just make a little bit more money, if I just move the goalpost just a little bit further, maybe it's a little bit further up the mountain. And it wasn't. I couldn't do it anymore. And so this was the universe nudging me, like, okay, that was a nice scene of your movie, and now it's time to go in a different direction. And slowly but surely, I was a little bit stubborn, but I did, and I kind of delved headfirst into spirituality and really. So what is life? If life is not about moving decimals around on a spreadsheet and make a bunch of money for people and myself, then what is life about? What is really the purpose? Why are we here? And so, these kind of existential questions became like my obsession. And through trials and tribulations, and the universe kind of stripped me naked of all that money and all that fame and all that applause and divorce and, other things happened in my life. And all of it was divine gifts wrapped in sandpaper.
Oh
Now,
man.
it didn't
Um,
feel like that, but
yeah.
at the time. But now, in hindsight, I can see how all of this had to be exactly that way.
You described it really, perfectly and easy to understand. Exactly the feeling that every single person I've talked to who has had this sort of interesting awakening or major life change, and you can't go back. It's you try, like you
No.
said, you're like, well, I'll just take this job and see. The last time I tried to take a 9 to 5 job just to make a little money, I mean, it lasted 5 weeks. Every day I
Yeah.
was crying at my desk, and I
Yeah.
used to be, a high powered executive in the
Yeah.
studio
Yeah.
system. I couldn't do it, and I was like, I just made the biggest mistake.
Yeah.
I got to keep going on with my path and creating these
Yeah.
inroads, and you just can't. It's something switches, and
Yeah.
that's it.
But that switch goes off, but your ego will negotiate forever. And it will tell you, well, let's just take this job. It's easy money. Let's just, stay in this relationship. It's not so bad. I don't need to move. I don't need to downsize. I don't need to do this. Let's just keep it the way it is. I'll just do a little bit more of this. It's not so bad. All those things, right? Our ego is always negotiating because it really fears the unknown. I mean, that paralyzes our ego. And you cannot know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So there's 3 levels of knowing. The
Okay.
things you know,
Mm-hmm.
the things you don't know, and the things you don't know. And these are the 3 levels of knowing. And
Okay.
so our ego is very comfortable in what it knows.
Mm-hmm.
It can sort of deal with what it knows it doesn't know, because at least it's still it's in its it's in its circle of comprehension. But for anything there to be that is, I don't even know what I don't know, your ego, your mind can just simply not grasp it. And so
Yeah.
it's like the scariest thing in the world. And when you think about awakening, you think about going on the spiritual path, starting to trust these inner whispers instead of, what the world tells you, what the road plan is. You have to move towards that which you don't know, because you don't know exactly what that feels like, what that life is going to look like, where you're going, right? And this is the scary part of it.
And exciting, and it's interesting that the different, you almost become a whole different version of yourself. It's that you don't even recognize anymore, and it's
Right.
okay. You accept that other version of yourself. And also, with all the things that you did in your businesses, it had to help you now set up this business, and all those skills kind of came in, but they're now you're using your old skills, but for something that you're so excited to get up with every morning, and hit the ground running for a whole different purpose. So that must be
Mhm.
pretty awesome and exciting as well.
Yeah, of course, because everything that happens in our life has a purpose. It all has a meaning. It all has a significance. Everything is always in perfect order. Even when you look back, every experience you had, even every relationship that maybe ended up in heartbreak, if you look back at it, there was something that allowed you to evolve and grow and expand. And maybe you made the same mistake 3 times in a row, but then finally you learned the lesson, and you never made that choice again. Or you change something inside of you, or you recognize, hey, I'm creating this actually. Why am I always ending up with these people that either don't love me, or they don't serve me, or I don't feel seen, I don't feel heard. And then you finally like, whoa, I'm doing this. I'm creating this in my life, right? Why am I always in jobs I don't like? Why am I doing these things? Why do I have friends that actually don't uplift me? Why do I allow this, right? And so, we just awaken slowly but surely. It's like peeling back these layers. And
Yeah, and we naturally start to build healthier boundaries. It's almost like an after effect. You can't
sure,
deal with that stuff anymore like you used to be able to, whatever that is. And everybody has a
sure,
different context,
sure, yeah,
like if you are a people pleaser, or all of a sudden you can't just be a people pleaser anymore. And it's great. It's like an after effect. It's not like you have to worry about everything changing.
right.
It
Hmm.
actually happens naturally. So I saw that you got your book and you were so excited. I love seeing authors. I know what a labor of love book like this is. And it's, the first word is love, which it kind of boils everything down to that. And the second word is truth. Can you tell us a little bit about your love, what that means to you, and then your truth and what that?
Sure. If you allow me to, I'll tell you where it came from.
Yeah.
So about 2-3 years ago, even more, maybe longer, 4 or 5 years ago, I did quite a bit of yoga, and I became a certified yoga teacher. Not that I taught, but I wanted to learn it. And in all these yoga classes, I was going through a lot of stuff in my life. And they always say, well, love and light and be happy and all these. And I'm like, and inside of me, there was something like, it's not all love and light. There's a lot of darkness. There's darkness inside of me. Like there's nasty, rough edges inside of me. It's not all love and light. And I just was wrestling with that. And then actually I had, I think, a plant ceremony of some sort. And then this love and truth came through. Like I really want to come from a place of love, but I want to live in truth. I want to eradicate all falsehoods in my life, all false beliefs, all like just be in purity of truth, right? Which is a very high bar. And then I started signing everything love and truth. And so this has been my personal mantra for years. Now, last year in April, last week in April, I had this massive download. I wasn't thinking about writing my second book. I wrote my first book in 21. It's called Never Enoughitis. That was really about this arc of my story. And then this whole framework came through. I mean, literally all the 5 parts, all the 38 chapters, and this whole spiritual teaching framework anchored in sacred geometry. And the next day I started writing. And then by the third day, I cleared my calendar. I said, something wants to come through. I just have to honor this. And I wrote 5-6 hours a day for 2.5 months. And so that's where the 650 pages came from. And I don't want anybody to be intimidated by that, because this isn't a book that you need to read cover to cover day one. You can take your time with it.
Yeah.
You can read it cover to cover for sure. I've had some people that told me they read it in 3 days. So, it's not insurmountable amount of pages, but this is also a book that you can just take your time with, because there's just deep wisdom in it. I think on many different levels. I've read it, I wrote it, and I still read it, and I read new stuff in it. So it's I think it's really a beautiful book in that sense, and so I started writing it, and so love. One of the things, and I think I posted about it a few days ago. One of the second chapters called Universal Love. And, I've come to this realization for myself, and I call it, there's really 2 kind of versions of love. And one I call love the emotion, and one I call love the energy. Now, love the emotion is what most people would call love. And it's actually perishable, and it has exclusion in it. Because I love you today, and I want to marry you today, and you're my bride, and you're going to spend the rest of my life with you, right? And then a few years later, I can't stand you. I'm going to hire some lawyer to, and make sure I don't pay you a penny. It's perishable, right?
Wow.
I love my car today, but 2 years from now, it's a piece of crap. I love my people, but I don't love those people.
Yeah.
I love my religion, but I don't love that religion.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there's an exclusion to it as well. It's got perishability and exclusion kind of woven in it. And we see this everywhere in the world. It's all love the emotion. It's very superficial. It's fickle, right? It's on one day and off on the other day. Now, love the energy. I don't call it unconditional love because I think that term is quite overused and people confuse unconditional love with this love the emotion. And it's used very casually. So I call it love the energy, but you could say it's unconditional love. Now, love the energy just is. It's not dependent on how you treat me. It's not dependent if you're nice or kind or, a nasty, what, because I'm still going to love you.
Yeah.
I'm still going to have compassion for you. You even look at people that do atrocious things in this world, and you can still have this level of love for them. That doesn't mean that you don't create boundaries and maybe you don't let them in your inner circle, but you still hold them in this love. So this is a very much higher. It's enduring. It doesn't have any perishability. It doesn't have any exclusion. You don't need to do anything to earn it either. Like you don't need to do something or somehow satisfy some of my needs for you to get that kind of love from me.
I love it.
Now, this is love the energy, right? And so love the energy is really of a whole different level. Now, when you think about love the emotion, and I'll go a little deeper into this, it's a beautiful subject. Now, love the emotion is subject to polarity, which everything in this universe is subject to polarity except love the energy. And I'll get to that in a minute. So love the emotion has an opposite. And usually we think, well, maybe the opposite is hate, or maybe the opposite is fear. And that is actually not true. So the opposite of hate. So what is hate? Hate is a surplus of negative energy, right? And so what's the opposite of that? Is a surplus of positive energy. It's idolizing, aggrandizing. And so we can be blind with hate, and we can be equally blind with idolizing something, right? So now let's pull apart fear. And I'm talking about psychological fear, not physical threat. Someone is putting a gun on your head, right? So what is fear, really? It's a negative belief in the absence of any concrete proof. So what would be the opposite of that? It's a positive belief in the absence of any concrete proof. Well, that would be faith. It's fear and faith. So now love the emotion. What is the opposite of love the emotion? It's actually indifference. Because the fact that I have now lost my love for you does not automatically mean that I hate you. I'm now indifferent to you. I don't care anymore. I loved you one day, and I was willing to take care of you, protect you, and hold you, and do whatever, because you were my people, or my girl, or my husband, or my whatever. And now I'm in this place, I just don't really care. I'm indifferent. Now, look at the world. We love our people, our political party, our ideologies, our ideas, all the people that think like us or show up like us or that we somehow identify. We love all that. And really, we're indifferent to everything else. We just don't really, truly care.
Yes.
Because we care a lot about we care a lot about America. But do we really care about Yemen? Do we really care about things in Africa? And saying, yeah, we look at it on TV, but we're kind of indifferent. Because we just go about our own way. We're not shopping any less. We're not still going out for dinner. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not calling anybody bad or wrong. You got to see it for what it is. We're indifferent. Because within love the emotion, the opposite is indifference. So we love what we love, and we will love that like with all our heart. It's beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. But we have to realize that makes us indifferent to everything that's outside of that. Because we just don't care. Now, love the energy has no opposite. Because it's actually the fabric of this universe. It's actually what you and I are made of. It is actually the intelligence, the power that animates all of it. It's our truest core is love the energy. And this is why love the energy feels so good.
It does
feel good. At some point in our life, we touched on it right? Or
Yes.
when we see it, we all recognize it. We can see it in another person. We can see something. We can see a person of such heightened benevolence and compassion that it brings us to tears.
Yeah.
And we have that, each of us have that. That's our core. That's actually what we are. Now, it gets muddied up with all these ideologies and ideas and enculturation and things, and we get lost in this love, the emotion. But underneath all of that is this diamond that knows nothing but love, the energy, and there's nothing else. It's the only thing in this universe that has no polarity, because it is source. If you want to, that is God, creator, spirit, infinite intelligence, or in the scientific area, they call it the quantum field, but it's all the same thing. And this is what I point out in my book. All the ancient wisdom traditions, and nowadays the quantum physicists. I quote Einstein and Bohr and David Bohm, and they're saying the same thing as Lao Tzu and Taoism. They're saying the same thing as the old Vedic traditions, the indigenous cultures. They all talk about a great spirit and that we are the universe, each of us. Rumi said, "You're not a drop in the ocean. You're the whole ocean in a drop." And so in my book, I basically pull all these different aspects and I say, listen, everybody is saying the same thing.
Yeah.
We have so many teachers, so many guides. So there's nothing in this book I'm going to say that's originally like Robert came up with that. No, Robert didn't come up with anything. I synthesized my search for 8-9 years because I wanted to figure out, like, what is this game that spirit is playing? Because I played the game man played. And I've learned that is not really the game to play. That's being played. And so
Yes.
those are finite games. And the one infinite game is the game spirit plays.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to understand the rules of that game.
And now be able to share it with other people, make it easier for them to, and, guide them through their own awakening and journey to.
If it helps them. And I'm just as fine for anybody to dismiss my book, to dismiss me, read anything in my book and not agree with it, because I'm not here to propagate another religion.
No, and a lot of times with these kind of books like yours, there's a vibration of the overall book, of a higher vibration, and you don't even need to read all of it sometimes just to get ingested into the energy of it, the love energy that you're talking about, because your book obviously is a true example of that love energy, right? So it vibrates on that level because you put it out there for purely energetic love reasons, right? So it's a true vibration of this concept that you're discussing.
Yeah, and awakening is not always pleasant, as you know.
No.
You're going to go through rocky times. You're going to go through
And
dark moments.
sometimes over and over again.
Yeah, and it never really stops because you don't stop evolving. There's always gradations and levels of refinement and purification, and that's really where my book in part 5 points at. That we're all spiritual poets, and we're here to work on this masterpiece called the spiritual art that I express into creation. Yeah. Now I express it into creation through my relationships, through the work I do, for just my sheer being. I express it into creation by how I talk to the cashier at Starbucks, right? Yeah. Random strangers that I interact with. You see all these posts now on this incredible violence and discourse you see on aircraft and airports and public spaces, and you're like, obviously this is all woundedness expressing itself, and it's poetry in that sense. But it reveals also this thing like listen, you're adding to this universe in every second of being, everything you do.
Mm-hmm. And everything you consume is going right into you.
Everything you consume, everything you say, everything you everything you think, everything you do. And so
You
the
want to,
game is just to refine that.
okay. And that's through whichever resonates with your soul, right?
Of
Um,
course, of course. Follow your heart.
but it's also everything around you, like the content you consume. If you're consuming toxic content, and then you're wondering why that's stuck in your mind, and maybe why your relationships look like that, right? It's like it's everything around you. You can start to pick apart and go, oh, I watch murderous TV shows all the time, and
That's
then I
right.
go to bed and I have
Yeah,
this
of
inside
course.
my spirit, right?
Of course. Yeah.
I like that you're the first person that I can come to mind that you broke down love into two categories, which I think is great. Because when you were talking and you were saying that, the first love, the emotional love, I was going back to like when I was younger, and I was like, writing my name in notebooks. I'm going to love Johnny forever or whatever, and ever, never, never, no matter what. It was, like you said, it was perishable, it was fickle, and then when that breaks down, you look at it as a failure, oh, I'm going to have another broken relationship. Or instead of realizing that what you had together at that moment, the lessons that it had, and that love can transform. You don't even if you divorce somebody, and I've talked to people about this, doesn't mean I don't love that person anymore. That relationship is transformed, and it can be transformed in a beautiful way, or
Of course.
right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have a very beautiful co-parenting relationship with my ex-wife. She moved on with someone. Is very happy the last 6 years already, I think. And we do all the holidays together, and we go on vacations together. And her boyfriend comes and brings his, or partner comes and brings his kids, and of course, all of that can be created. And I want to emphasize that I'm not saying that love the emotion is bad in any way.
Yeah.
It's not bad at all. It's our humanness. We fall crazy in love. It's a beautiful thing. We love our car, or we love our house, or there's nothing wrong with it. It's just understanding what it is, right? And so we can be masters with it. And then we can witness that when something happens and that love is withdrawn, it's just our humanness having a reaction because it's getting hurt in some way. It feels violated, or it feels insulted, or it feels not seen, or it doesn't feel heard, or it doesn't feel loved. And then, that heart closes, like that heart that emanates love, the emotion, will then close and protect itself. Just like a little kid that just got hurt.
Yeah.
And if we can just know that about ourselves and be okay with it and say, wow, man, my heart is like, man, I'm aching. I'm in pain. And then we can see it for what it is, that's okay too. I mean, this human experience here in Earth School, we're going to get bruised. We're going to get scarred. It's just part of what happens because we fall in love. We fall out of love. Things, we lose jobs. We have dreams that don't work out the way we hoped. I mean, we have loved ones that pass away. We have opportunities we thought would become something, and then it turns out that it's not happening. And we have all these things in life. We get sick. People we love get sick. We see so much stuff in the world that, in some way, like pains us to see it. And it's okay. This is all the human experience. So love the emotion is not bad. I don't want to like paint this picture that, you're now at fault because you only have access to love the emotion. I'm just saying there is a higher exalted version. And when you really step into this awakening process and you awaken that version of love inside of you, now you can actually hold that pain of love, the emotion, in this love, the energy within you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can, when you get scarred or bruised, you don't have to retaliate and hurt back. You can say, it's okay. I'll get over this.
You go into that energy of forgiveness for yourself and others and say, hey,
Of course.
and start to, that's the love energy that you move into. So you're loving the tangible or whatever, and then you move into the energy. So that's great.
And even exactly what you're saying. Like, how many times do we have a failure show up in our life and we then deem ourselves a failure? So we love ourselves because things are going well. And then we withdraw our own love for ourselves because we think, I really screwed that up because I lost a job, or this relationship didn't work out, or, I thought I was going to get that business deal and then it didn't happen, or, I put this out into the world and I thought that was really going to be like so successful, and then it turned out to be a bit of a dud, or whatever it is, right? And then we withdraw even, this is love the emotion for ourselves. So we can also have love the energy for ourselves. And just say, you know what, this is just a human experience. Shit is going to show up in my movie. And some of them are beautiful scenes, and some of them are not so great. But I'm not going to allow myself to actually take my own love away because something shows up in my outer world. Because anybody that tries anything in the outside world is going to inevitably have some failures. You're not going to nail the landing on everything you do in life.
No.
Just not going to happen.
And I'm writing a book. A lot of people know about healing suicidal ideation for the Swedenborg Foundation. And, when I try to explain a lot of my healing of suicidal thoughts was through, I really found a way to love myself, and accept all those parts of me. Yeah. And that journey to love myself, it is very unique to each person, but you have to find whatever that is. So, and that's that an energy self where you love yourself so deeply that you would never want to harm yourself again. And I can separate now. Your explanation, I think, is going to be a really good book to recommend to people that have fallen into these suicidal thoughts or negative thinking, because I like intellectualizing things. That's why I started the podcast, and the way you break it up eloquently does help me separate. Is this thing I'm doing a self-love, love energy emotion, or is this something that's, you know what I mean, that I've put in flowers around it and but it actually kind of stinks. You know what I mean? So I love this for that type of application for people. Also, I love seeing you're obviously a strong man. You're fit. You have a presence about you. And I really, I say this because, when I really started about 15 years ago, really going deeper into spiritual classes and everything, it was 90% women, and over the years it's gotten to like 80% women, and now 70%. And I actually am seeing a flip. And that's why I really wanted to have you on. I like your messaging. I like the content you're putting out, but I love seeing a strong man who can now inspire other men who haven't been, the feminine, we all have feminine and masculine, and people are starting to learn that. But I feel like each time a male comes up the ranks and be able to eloquently say these things that would be considered a feminine thing through a masculine voice, it's like even us feminines, we want our men back, that they have the voice. And I just love this. I feel like you actually do resonate for both male and feminine. But, can we go just a tiny bit about your masculine messaging? Maybe you have it in your book, or have you had people say this to you? And what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what is this? But I'm going to thank you. It's a really nice compliment. And I say this with, how do I say this? As much as I really do appreciate that. I have a lot of masculine energy, and I am an alpha type, and that's what I've always been my whole life. And alpha is not better than beta or gamma or whatever. It's just, a few of us are just wired like alphas, it's the way I'm wired, that's the way nature works. And we Actually, you need only very few of them. And they're very dangerous when they're unconscious. I was a very dangerous man unconscious, and I caused a lot of damage because alphas are natural leaders. And so they tend to be in leadership positions, and people emanate leaders.
Yep.
And so when you have an unconscious alpha in a leadership position, that is extraordinarily dangerous. And this is one of the reasons we see so much mayhem in this world.
Yes.
Because we have unconscious alphas in positions of power and influence where they don't have the wisdom to hold that power and influence.
Wisdom.
Now, I want to say one more thing. Don't idolize me in any way.
Yeah.
Because I still go through my breakdowns. I'm a 6'5" guy that still sometimes goes to his knees and has to surrender and has his things that come up. You know, I'm not perfect by any means. I'm still moving through my own, trials and tribulations that, never stop. And so I want to be humble about that. I don't want to picture myself as this guy's got it all figured out.
No, of course.
But I have walked a long path, and I have learned a few things through trials and tribulations. And I do think that the masculine is rising. I do think there's more and more men stepping into this. And I totally agree with you, because when I went on the spiritual journey almost 10 years ago, I had the means to go on every retreat, workshop, whatever. And it was always all women. There was a few token guys, and I was one of them. And I was usually a little bit odd for everybody, because what's this business guy doing here? This is this guy used to be in the corporate world. What is he doing here? But, I do think that's opening up. And I think there's an awakening in the world taking place in general. And that has to do with rising frequencies, and our thread of consciousness that runs through our Atman is being activated. I call that the truth serum is getting dropped. And once that truth serum is dropped, we are going to awaken. Now, we can fight it for a while with our ego, but that is the timing that we get to determine when we will go on that path. But that path is not optional once the truth serum is dropped. Once you have awakened in some way, you are going to go on this journey. Yes.
But what I just wanted to go back really quickly. You said something about the leaderships, and men are a lot of the leadership roles in America still, and that's why I wanted to bring it up, because if the leaders can get more of this wisdom, like you were saying, it's not about being perfect or being at a place. Right.
Well, this is the core of the work I do, right? I mean, I work with very select people, people that used to be me. And most of them are men, but I do work with some women because there's also alpha women. There's alpha women that are wired to build empires.
Yeah.
And it's in them. It's natural for them, so anyway, I do work with those men that awaken in those places of power and influence. And then they find me because usually they have a crisis, catastrophe, calamity that comes into their life. And that's where they find me. And we go on this journey together. And I work with them through kind of walking this rite of passage. And then I have served and done what I need to do. And they move on by themselves. They don't need me anymore. My job is to work myself out of a job.
Yes, I say the same thing.
If I become a crutch, I'm not doing my job right. Mm-hmm. Because my job is to empower you. My book is to empower the reader, not to think Robert is great. What I would love for you to take from the book is that you are great. And that there's nothing that I've possibly done that you couldn't do. Right? That is the message. Not please don't idolize me in any way. I mean, maybe use me as an inspiration if that's helpful for you. But, you are that powerful. Everybody is that powerful.
Definitely.
Now, and I think a big shift that we're moving towards, and this is a challenging transition, because, women are figuring themselves out too. And so we've had this since World War II, and I make myself unpopular sometimes when I tell this story, but, feminism kind of, those pictures in World War II, I'm a woman and really they were recruiting women to work in the factories. They needed them as workers. This wasn't about anybody like being for women empowerment. They needed workers in the factory because the guys were fighting in Europe, in Asia. Now, this feminist movement that kind of evolved from that accomplished great many things. And it made great strides towards leveling the playing field and all that. But it got women, it positioned women in this position of being in competition with men. I can be just as good. And actually, if you want to go a level deeper, competing in a game with men that men shouldn't even be playing anymore. Because this game that man has played for millennia is why the world looks like this. So now we have women going into that pool trying to compete with men, showing they're just as good. Well, there's one fallacy in that. Because if you are trying to compete with men, you're seeking validation, recognition from them. And you are not sovereign. So to me, the kind of level up from feminism is sovereignty. And you are just a sovereign woman. And you don't need any validation or recognition from a man for you to have your full worth.
Yes.
You don't need men in society to tell you you're just as good or no, you're sovereign. You already know. It's not a question. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm going to go do what I want to create. And if that's running an empire in the world and being a titan, beautiful. I'll go do that. If that's being a homemaker and that's what makes me fulfilled and happy and beautiful, go do that. If that's being a podcast host, an author, it doesn't matter what you do. Because this sovereignty is an expression of your self-worth into the world. And you don't need anybody to tell you that you're worth anything because I already know. You don't have to tell me. I am sovereign. And so to me, this is kind of the next echelon for women. Now, once women really step into that fully and understand that, I think actually we'll start having a place where we can create more harmony between the masculine and feminine. Because now we're not in competition anymore. And now we're not talking about all these different, very thorny subjects in society. Because we can just recognize that, the feminine is a beautiful expression, equally valuable, equally worthy, equally everything with the masculine, but it's a different expression. And they're not the same, and they're not supposed to be the same, because guess what? If you look at the Vesica Pisces, they're only complete, the yin yang, they're only complete when they're in harmony together.
Yes.
Neither one of them by themselves is really of any significance. Well, look at life. You cannot create life unless you have both. You cannot create anything because the Vesica Pisces and the masculine and feminine coming together on an energetic level is what creates everything. This entire universe is based on that principle. I write about this very deeply in my book. And so any idea you have, it has to have an egg and it has to have a sperm. And that egg needs to be fertilized.
Yes.
And whether that egg is a little human being or a little giraffe or a little plant or an idea for a new beautiful business you're going to create or a piece of art or music, it doesn't matter what it is. That egg needs to be fertilized. You need both. We, of course, have both within us. And it's about harmony. It's not about, because from that equality comes neutralization. And you don't want to neutralize it at all. You want to revere and highlight and celebrate these differences because they're only complete together.
Yes. And I really believe that it was just another form of separation. I kind of put everything, is this something that's meant to separate us or to bring us together? And that's just the simplest way I look at all these things that I'm like looking at. And no, that's obviously separating us. That's, and it, like you said, love, energy, competition is an energy, what's sexy about competition energy? There, what's loving about competition energy? That's just two things.
So competition is something we really love because it's part of the narrative of neoclassical capitalism. And so there's an elevated form of capitalism that now goes by the name regenerative capitalism, which really honors the principles of nature. Like what makes nature thrive? And can we reflect that in capitalism? It's also called biomimicry. Like, what makes nature forever and ever eternally evolve and grow and prosper? Well, there's principles to that. Well, when we apply that to capitalism, we get a form called regenerative capitalism. Now, within neoclassical capitalism, which is really the ideology that our Western society is based on, right? There's this idolization of competition. Like, competition is great because it, like, it makes the markets efficient and all that stuff. Well, it turns out that's actually not really how nature works. Nature works on the principle of coevolution, because everything coexists. It's all one big giant web of life. And whenever there's excess competition in nature, it corrects itself, because it disturbs the harmony of the whole web of life. And so we have a fixation in our society, in our Western society. We think competition is it, and we're actually moving away from that. We're moving into an era of coevolution. It's a completely different way of being. It's a completely different way of looking at the world, because it dissolves all these artificial barriers and borders and demarcations. Because guess what? I will never be in competition with you, because I cannot be Gina Cavalier like you can.
And flowers don't compete with each other.
And you could never be Robert Althuis like I can. And so there is no competition in nature, because we are all unique. And there's even an intelligence, and a God, a creator, or the universe is expressing itself through us. There's something in the universe that had the idea, I want to have this experience of being Gina Cavalier. And then it created that.
Yeah. I find that the youth struggle with this topic a lot. And I think because of social media and things like that, this competition word, because they kind of go, oh, they have X, Y, and Z, and they know this many people, and they have that many followers, and they start to, that's the competitive energy that they have. And then if they're not there, or and they're out there trying to create these things just to get a bunch of people to look at them, and then they feel unfulfilled. It's that.
All of social media is just one big dopamine kick, right? It's just the followers, the likes, the things. It's all kind of really screwing with your hormones. Literally.
Yeah. Well, I was actually thinking the other day, I know this is morbid, but I was like, when you pass away and your soul evolves, you say, I died with X amount of followers. You know what I mean? Like, it's really meaningless, and all, unless you're in competition or for financial reasons, but I don't know. I thought that was I was thinking about that the other day.
Right.
Well, let's quickly get to a little bit more of the truth portion of what we were talking about. You're talking about the truth serum that comes in.
Yeah. Well, and in my book, I describe it a little bit different. So I really go deep into the foundation. That's the part one. And then I start talking about the architecture, which is masculine and feminine. And then I go into gifts, and then the principles of the universe. And then I go part 5 is like how we integrate all this and really become the spiritual poet, because we're both the sculptor and the sculpture, right? Yeah. And Michelangelo said, I saw David in the stone, and I started removing all excess marble. Like, this is really what we're doing here. We're just peeling back the layers to get to that perfect David version of us. And this is an eternal game. So you don't have to be in a rush. There's nowhere to get to, because you're going to be doing this for millions more years. So take your time, right? You're not racing against any clock. This is just like every day you do a little bit. Now, this masculine and I explained, so the masculine is representative of consciousness. And so then I go into sacred geometry, and consciousness has 3 components. I call them constituent attributes. One is awareness, one is intelligence, and one is energy. That is actually the makeup of consciousness. And masculine is representative of consciousness. Consciousness is everything in this universe, whether it's form or unmanifested, formless. Now, the feminine represents existence.
Mm.
And existence is being, creativity, and reference. And I go very deep into what these principles mean. And again, they go together, right? And so ultimately, I kind of run people, and then there's gifts that evolve from these, these aspects that you can combine, and then there's gifts of the universe. And then really where it gets to love and truth, right, is that consciousness, and don't say masculine is not men. Masculine is just a component of God, of source, of, so that aspect is love. Now, the feminine existence is actually truth. And everything in form, consciousness in form, is feminine in nature because she is God's creation. Now, I'm not just talking, I am in that sense feminine as well. And a tree is feminine, and a blade of grass is feminine, and the oceans are feminine, and the planets, and the solar system, and the galaxy, and the universe. Everything of form is feminine. Everything is sacred for that reason. And women, not the feminine, but women are the representation, the fractal representation of the feminine on earth. They're sacred. This is what we men need to learn.
Yeah.
Because if we don't honor women, we don't honor trees, we don't honor nature, we don't honor anything. And look at what we're doing to this world.
Yeah.
Look at what we're doing to Mother Earth.
Yes.
There's zero reference for the sacredness of all of creation. And this is a masculine disconnected from his heart. And guess what? This mind is the masculine presidio, and the heart is our feminine intelligence. This is connected to the whole universe, everything there ever is. And there's a language to our heart. And that language is feeling, sensing, intuiting, and direct knowing. Now, our heart whispers and our mind screams. And so we got to quieten the mind and tune into the whispers. And I could keep going. I mean, it's 650 pages. But
tune into the whispers. I love it. Tune into the whispers.
So love and truth is really the two basic elements. And as we live life, how do we discover truth? By being here in Earth School, to being on Mother Earth, to being in all of creation, by frolicking with form and matter and relationships, by creating and seeing, hey, if I create this in this way, it has beautiful results and outcomes. And if I create in this way, it's got all kinds of nasty shit that happens, right? So if you allow me, I don't know if we have time. This is actually in the introduction. Can I read this real quick? Because this will sum up my book and whether someone feels they need to read it. But this is the first page of the introduction. You don't really need to read this book. There's nothing in this book that you don't already know deep within you. The best this book can do is to activate your remembrance. So to save you the trouble of reading, let me summarize this book for you. Love is the secret sauce. Love is the only answer. This is the only truth. And honestly, we each know this, although we might not live it. Anything created, empowered, infused, bestowed, encircled, or embraced with love inevitably heals, thrives, grows, flowers, blossoms, unites, harmonizes, regenerates, and creates effervescent beauty in whatever form that might appear. Love is the sacred elixir of life itself, the magical, energetic pixie dust of this universe, that which animates all of creation. Love is infinitely intelligent, wise, and powerful. And when we awaken to this remembrance, the nucleus of divinity deep within us is sparked and reignited.
Love and truth. Everybody, love and truth. I'm getting that ASAP. I really enjoyed getting to know you and sharing some time with you today. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to link everything in below for you to find the book. And thank you, Robert.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on. And I really appreciate it. It was a beautiful conversation. So I'm really glad that we finally were able to pull it together.
Absolutely. good luck. We know you don't need luck, but good luck. We hope everybody gets this and digests it with their full heart. And thank you for all your likes, shares, subscribes, and supporting the channel. And this is Gina, the Liberated Healer. So are you. Love you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.